Chapter 91 The True Value of Lava Fruit. You are listening at Mtlnovel Audio. In the Holy Land, on Mary Joa's side, didn't play tennis. Instead, he stayed alone in the tree house between you, recording something in a notebook with a serious face, and showing memories and thoughts from time to time. The Sea Tower stone is inlaid on the bottom of the naval battleship, so that the Sea King class can feel that the naval battleship is the sea, which can greatly avoid the chance of being discovered by the Sea King class in the windless zone. This technical difficulty should not be too difficult, and it should be researched by just mentioning it. When it comes out, we have to add paddle wheels, propellers and steam propulsion. While recalling, he wrote these down on a piece of white paper. Of course, he didn't know too much professional technical knowledge, so he just wrote down the general meaning, because he is ready to give a gentle push to the Navy's scientific and technological development. The main reason is to decide to open the Star Gate with the 5 old stars in the near future. It will probably come into contact with other civilizations, so there is a sense of tension to a certain extent. The time Vegapunk studied these things was within a few years of the beginning of the original plot, but for the current world government, that was more than 20 years later, couldn't wait that long. He feels that some things do require long-term research and testing, but some things can actually be launched quickly. Today's naval warships do not have sea towers on the bottom of the ship, nor steam propulsion, nor paddle wheels and propellers, so it is difficult to travel in windless zones, and the speed is also much slower. In the recollection, I remember that it only took more than 4 days for Flying Squirrel to take Empress Hancock from 9 Snakes Island to Impel Down City, but now it takes at least a week. Animal semi-mechanization has already been developed in the future kingdom. After so many years, I think it has become very mature. I just need to think about how to use this technology. There are also artificial biotechnologies that utilize bloodline factors. Looked at the relevant information on the scientific force handed over by Wulaoxing and said with a smile, "Oh, have you just started researching that this should be the advanced technology of Germa Kingdom's human cloning technology? In fact, whether it is Vinsmoke Gaji, Queen of the Beast Pirates, or Caesar in the future, their biochemical technologies are actually leftovers from Vegapunk's toys. But they have also come up with some new tricks, such as starting genetic modification during the embryonic stage to give babies extraordinary physiques and superpowers. Although there is some lack of emotion, from Sanji and Reiju's point of view, it is just a matter of probability. The most important thing is that they cannot disobey Gaji's order. Isn't this the best cipher pole seedling? If we can master this technology maturely, we won't need to find any orphans to cultivate in the future." Thinking of this, Im's eyes flickered, and he became interested in the Germa Kingdom and the One-Smoke family in the North Sea. At this time, the eldest daughter Reiju should have just been born, or still in her mother's belly. 3 years later, Iji, Niji, Sanji, and Yuji were born on the same day as quadruplets. Then don't leave them alone for now, and wait for the 4 brothers to show up before picking peaches. For the Germa Kingdom, the biggest obstacle is that it is a franchising country, even one of the 50-seat countries eligible to participate in the World Conference. Therefore, Vinsmoke Gaji cannot be arrested casually, but all the research materials, experimental equipment and related scientific researchers he produced can be confiscated, and Reiju and the others can also be taken away as contraband. Because except for scientific troops, the research on bloodline factors is an activity explicitly prohibited by the world government, and it is reasonable and legal to do so. If he wants to continue his research work, he has only one option: join the scientific force. Oh, it is now the Academy of Sciences. But with this guy's ambition, it's impossible for him to join the Academy of Sciences and become a scientist. Chuckled. In his eyes, the current Vinsmoke Gaji is like a chicken laying eggs. When the eggs fall, he will take them away and then lock them up. Then he turned his attention to Quinn. Plague bombs are nothing, but the mummy virus and the ice ghost virus are a bit interesting. They are very similar to Caesar's Kingdom of Death in the future. If you have a chance to catch him, you can throw him to the Biochemical Research Institute. If not, then send the idea to Caesar. I can figure it out even if I think about it. Discovered that the biochemical virus weapons in this world seem to be of the type that penetrated into the body from outside the body. In his impression, poisonous gases and plagues did not all start from the body. Of course, he didn't quite understand. Maybe there was a virus that infected the skin first in his previous life. Also, this guy's human body modification technology can allow many disabled people to resume their activities. It seems that we have to find a way to invite him back. Working for that guy Kaido is too wasteful, that while recording, Im was complaining in his heart. But Punk Hasid's human body enlargement experiment must be stopped. What's the use of this thing? If we want giant soldiers, we might as well capture a few giants and let them have children, and then train them. Mainly because he felt that it was a bit unbearable to do biochemical experiments on natural children. Although he was not a good person and he valued the power and influence in his hands, he still had a basic bottom line. Unless there is a serious threat to one's rule, the bottom line must still be maintained. This kid is the bottom line. As for Vinsmoke's EG and the others, in his opinion, they are more like advanced clone transformation warriors and cannot be generalized with natural people. Ah, speaking of which, Elbaf's giant kingdom needs to find a way to solve it. Not to mention that it is stuck at the entrance and exit of the highway. Its attitude towards the world government has always been to refuse cooperation and is even somewhat hostile. This is stubborn. Thinking of this, Im's eyes turned cold. To be honest, as a time traveler, he really doesn't care about all the grudges and conflicts from hundreds of years ago. As long as he is willing to cooperate well and be obedient from now on, then he is willing to accept the other party's continued existence and even take more care of him. That's what Fishman Island is like. But if it really doesn't work, then he certainly can't keep such a big time bomb and continue to stay in his own homeland. When the Star Gate opens in the future, there will definitely be conflicts and wars with civilizations from all over the world. He doesn't want to be stabbed in the back by these giants. Either find time to destroy it, or support a new giant king who is biased towards the world government. At this time, Im realized that his thoughts were divergent and digressed. What he wanted to think about today was science and technology, and he immediately pushed the giant's things back to the bottom of his heart. Vegapunk must be grasped. Let me think about it. His lifelong goal is to allow the citizens of the future kingdom of Bakamoa to live in a warm environment. To this end, he also built a super-large. The heating stove was forced to stop due to lack of technology at the time. Then can I provide funds to support him in continuing to improve this heating stove? He should be able to figure out the technical aspects himself. In fact, Im thinks that if you want to warm Bakamoa on Winter Island, you don't have to rely on technology. Devil Fruit's ability can also do it. For example, let Kizaru go on a trip to wake up, dispel the snow and dark clouds on the island, and turn it into a sleepless island that never lacks light. Then let Akainu go there and create an active volcano, so that Bakamoa Asia has enough geothermal heat so that the island's ice, snow, and cold problems can also be solved. Speaking of which, the real value of the awakening of the lava fruit lies not in combat, but in the ability to artificially create an eternal active volcano and geothermal energy. I remember that this thing can generate electricity. Im's eyes flashed, but he didn't realize that his thoughts had strayed from the topic again. Chapter 94. Shanks was recalled to the Holy Land. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Donghai, Rog Town, Europe. Look, the news bird is here. But when a little boy heard the sound, he immediately raised his head and pointed at the big bird flying down from the sky and shouted excitedly. The father, who looked quite young beside him, smiled and raised his hand to say hello. Soon, I saw the big white bird flying down. It was a yellow pecker wearing a white hat and a red square bag hanging around its neck. Especially its eyes and expression looked very human. Here, 100. The father casually took out a coin from his trouser pocket and put it into the red envelope on the other person's chest, and then took a new newspaper handed over to him, while the little boy carefully touched the wings of the news bird. Oh, the news bird showed a happy expression when he saw that the transaction went smoothly. At the same time, the men and women around him also came over to buy the latest issue of the newspaper. Give me one. Me too, But these people didn't notice that the young father who was the first to buy the newspaper suddenly changed his face when he saw the headline on the newspaper. Soon, more and more people saw the above content. They didn't even notice the news bird flying away. Everyone looked surprised, shock. Pirate King Gold, Roger's great treasure One Piece has been found. The following content focuses on the fact that the world government has found a great treasure on an island in the New World. A fleet of 10 warships led by Admiral Sengoku and Naval Hero Garp has arrived at the island. Moreover, the world government will conduct a public live broadcast tomorrow, making public the process of the fleet escorting the treasures back to Mariajoya. It will also show all the treasures to the people of the world, and then store them in the Holy Land Treasury. This is impossible. In the Ripoff Bar in Area GR13 of the Chambord Islands, a handsome man with blonde hair sat in front of the bar and stared at the newspaper in his hand. Allah, what's wrong? Xia Chi, who was wiping the wine glass with cotton cloth, looked over suspiciously with a lady cigarette in her mouth, because Rayleigh rarely had such a big reaction. It says that the world government found the treasures of Ralph Drew and Roger, and the gold and jewelry found filled 2 large cargo ships. Riley put the newspaper on the bar with a complicated mood. Yeah, Xia Chi put down the wine glass and cotton cloth in surprise and picked it up. She read it very quickly. After a moment, she smiled and said, I didn't expect you were quite rich at that time. Why didn't you bring some over? We won't use it now. You have to be so poor. You are wrong, we didn't leave any gold or silver treasure on that island at all. Riley shook his head and sighed, looking at the whiskey in the glass with a look of helplessness on his face. I didn't expect that Roger's plan would be foiled by the world government, and so quickly, and in this way. It's amazing, that he was thinking that if Roger knew about this in the land of Underworld, he would be very angry. Xia Chi was an extremely smart woman. When she heard what the other party said, she immediately understood the meaning. She raised her brows, held the cigarette in her mouth between her fingers, and let the smoke slowly come out. So this is a show by the world government. It is indeed a good way. It can eliminate half of the impact of the rumors of the great treasure. It mainly prevents the subsequent fermentation. Rayleigh sighed again, picked up the wine glass and drank the wine in one gulp. He was unwilling to give in. In the second half of the Grand Line, at the center of all nations in the New World Sea area, on Cake Island, Andy had just finished listening to what her eldest son, Perispero, relayed in the newspaper. Mama, it's really an amazing handiwork, the world government. At this time, Charlotte Lingling's figure was not completely put on, but she looked a little richer. She sat on the huge throne and crossed her legs sexily. So those Marines are somewhere in these waters right now, right? Yes, Mama. Perispero, who was 26 years old and already served as Minister of Confectionery, stuck out his long tongue and nodded. Let me find them, Mom. Charlotte Lingling showed a sneer. Although I don't know whether the treasure found is real or fake, it is meaningless anymore, but even so, we can't let the guys from the Navy go back from this sea area easily. Mom, I want to join in this fun. To her, One Piece was just a symbol that could prove becoming the Pirate King. After all, the saying spread at sea is that whoever finds it will be the next Pirate King, so she is looking for the historical text, but now the world government has lost this symbolic meaning through this public live broadcast. If the treasure escorted by the Navy is real, then there is nothing to say, but even if it is fake, it has been found. Under the premise that no one can prove that it is fake and most people can believe it, the fake there is really no difference between the and, even if a member of the former Roger Pirate steps forward, the former's influence is nothing compared to the media power controlled by the world government. Moreover, the escort process will be broadcast live and all the treasures will be piled together. When people watch it, the shocking impact will create a deep impression. In the face of facts and evidence with videos, pictures, and objects, those rumors are simply vulnerable, so even if she finds the real One Piece and Ralph Drew in the future, not many people will believe and recognize her, and naturally she will lose the notarization of the identity of the Pirate King. It seems that what the world government did this time made my mother a little angry. Perispero was holding a pink and white cane made of candy in his hand. As the eldest son who was most familiar with Charlotte Lingling, he understood it as soon as he saw the other person's expression. The reason is easy to guess. The existence of One Piece and Ravdru actually provides these pirate emperors with a way to successfully become pirate kings without too much conflict. Just like Gold, Roger, he didn't become the pirate king by defeating the Golden Lion Sure Sky, Whitebeard Diane Newgate, and Big Mom Charlotte Lingling, but by finding Ravdru. But now, it has returned directly to the situation a few decades ago. If you want to be the next pirate king, you must defeat all competitors in a way similar to raising Gu, just like that Rock's Dong Hai, Shanks, who was only 15 years old and wandering alone, was sitting on the beach outside a town with a newspaper in his hand, and his face became increasingly ugly, even angry. Nonsense, we don't have that much treasure at all. After arriving at Loughborough, he did not follow Bucky to the island in order to take care of Bucky because Bucky suddenly had a high fever, but one thing is very clear, they did not move so much treasure from the ship to the island, and Roger especially likes to hold banquets. As long as he saves some money on the ship, he will spend it all on food and drinks, and then there will be more. It was used to buy medicine and medical supplies to suppress Roger's terminal illness. Regal Shanks, right. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded behind Shanks. He instantly became alert and turned around, only to find that the person coming was a man in white wearing a white mask, followed by two men in black in suits and ties. People from the world government. Come with us, the 5 old stars call you to return to Mariajoya. As soon as these words came out, Shanks, who was wearing a straw hat, was stunned for a moment, and then his face turned ugly. Chapter 95 The Battle of One Piece. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Garp. Get ready to go. Sengoku growled displeasedly at his old bastard friend who was sitting on the bow of another warship, holding a fishing rod in both hands. Fortunately, at this time, the government officials from the propaganda department had not started to take pictures with phone bugs, otherwise his irritable appearance would have been seen by people from all over the world. Oh, it's so fast, I almost fell asleep. The bubbles on Garp's nose burst. He opened his slightly confused eyes and threw the fishing rod in his hand to Major General Bogart. Let's go, this place is so boring, that I saw that he turned a blind eye to the Lavdru behind him that countless people were looking for. He spent the whole day fishing while waiting for the sailors to pull the treasure onto the cargo ship. Originally, Garp was very interested in this island, but he lost interest after arriving. This is a summer island with dense plants, and there is an underground space deep inside. Cypher Pole's nickname One Piece was found there. He went in and took a look, and it was really impressive. There were also bounty lists for all members of the Roger Pirates on the wall, giving people a feeling of Roger. They use this as a souvenir feeling. By the way, there is also a stone tablet with the so-called autobiography of Roger written on it. To be honest, most people basically believe this when they see it. For example, at this time, tens of millions of people from all over the world are standing in front of the live broadcast screen. They are looking at the extremely clear content of the stone tablet on the screen, as well as the huge underground treasure house and the old and yellowed bounties on the walls. 1. They all believed it subconsciously. They had witnessed with their own eyes many large boxes with golden light being pushed onto the deck of the cargo ship under the escort of government personnel and Navy soldiers, and then moved into the cabin. But for Garp, he didn't feel the slightest bit of Roger's domineering aura on that stone tablet, and he realized that it was all fake. He is indeed not as resourceful as Sengoku, but he always trusts his own feelings. Now, finally everything is ready. A fleet of 10 headquarters-class warships and 2 large cargo ships has officially returned to Mariajoya. Only 10 warships, like giant beasts on the sea, were seen, protecting the cargo ship in the center in a 5-5-2 circular formation. Anyone familiar with naval battles knew that this was a defensive formation. Once encountering an impact from multiple enemy ships, the warships, which are divided into 2 layers, the inner and outer layers, will begin to rotate and move around the center of the circle to ensure that they can carry out salvo bombardment with the maximum firepower of the side strings. In fact, this kind of circular formation also has weaknesses, that is, it is difficult to deal with missile or torpedo attacks. Missiles don't exist at this point in time. They won't appear in the North Sea until at least 20 years later, and they will be small missiles at close range. Torpedoes are similar. There are no ships using them at sea. Moreover, this ever-changing circular formation is a great test of the driving skills of the fleet commander and the captains of each ship. Only the navy from the headquarters can handle it with ease. In addition, Sengoku, known as the Wise General, is responsible for commanding the entire fleet. At this time, Akainu and Shirlu were on the front warship, Kizaru was on the rearmost warship, Sengoku and Garp were guarding the left and right sides respectively, and the secret CP-0 was hidden on a cargo ship in the center. It can be said that both the Navy headquarters and the world government are serious about this action plan. Cheer up, Shirlu, that the unsmiling Akainu saw Shirlu leaning lazily on the railing of the boat and scolding him. The latter stood up a little straighter in fear of the former's strength and identity. Ever since he became the adjutant of Lieutenant General Akainu, Shirlu felt a sense of pain and happiness. The happiness lies in the fact that the opponent doesn't mind killing pirates at will, and sometimes the opponent even kills them harder than he does, and the lava fist can clear a whole area when he hits it. To be honest, it appealed to his taste. It would be better if he could kill a few Marines from time to time, but he didn't dare, unless one of the Marines deserted during the war, which would be fine. The pain is that this man is too serious, has no sense of humor, and always scolds himself for not having the appearance of a soldier. The key is, he doesn't dare to fight back like he did to Magellan. The sense of oppression on Akainu and his character were really too scary. Shirlu didn't doubt that if he dared to scold him back, the lava fist would hit him. Hey, he was suppressed to death by Sakaski. Lieutenant General Akainu, when we came here we didn't see any pirate group dare to charge over. There's no need to be so serious, right? Shirlu said helplessly, but his tone sounded a bit weak. To be honest, he had great expectations for the pirates in this new world, thinking that he would definitely be able to kill a lot of people along the way, but who would have thought that the pirate ships encountered along the way would stay away from this huge fleet of 10 headquarters-class warships. The Warring States General also ordered not to pursue them, and rushed to the Vlavdru as soon as possible to pick them up. Back to One Piece. In fact, this is normal. Who would deliberately find trouble with such a large fleet without any benefits? Just like this, Shirlu felt bored. Idiot, Sakaski cursed unceremoniously. Now that everyone around the world knows that we are escorting the treasures of the 2 ships, it is still live broadcast. Can it be the same as when we arrived? Live streaming. Shilio is now somewhat used to being scolded by the opponent. What can he do? He can't beat him again and again, and occasionally he can be killed painfully, so he focuses on the key points. To be honest, when we were advancing into the city, because there were no entertainment projects, we could only read the newspapers, but I haven't read them since I came out. Wouldn't it be nice to chop down a few pirates who were captured alive during this time? So a group of pirates who are eyeing the treasure will come later. His expression became excited, and his pupils flashed with dangerous scarlet murderous intent. Sakaski glanced at him and stopped looking at him. He continued to look at the surrounding sea level and said in a deep voice, "Don't be careless. The pirates here are not on the same level as the pirates in the first half. Of course I understand. Shilio has long heard that the pirates in this new world not only have extremely high bounties, but also have many capable people and swordsmen. The key is that most of them are armed with haki and haki with knowledge." On the other side, on the deck of a warship on the right, Sengoku's eyes suddenly narrowed. Coming. On the warship on the left, Garp also raised his eyebrows, silently put the senbei bag in his hand into the pocket of Justice's coat, and moved his arms. Major General Bogart behind him still closed his eyes to rest, but his right hand was quietly placed on the handle of the knife at his waist. But the problem was that the sailors on the watchtower who scanned the surroundings with binoculars did not see anything, until 10 minutes later, a ship of black dots appeared on the horizon in all directions. There were so many ships that at a glance there were as many as 20 or 30 ships. Woo 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 woo. An extremely sharp siren was sounded, and the navies of all levels on the 10 warships quickly ran to their positions, especially the triple turrets began to rotate. Coming, coming, coming. She showed a cruel and joking smile, but Porcelino, who was in charge of the rear of the fleet, had a distressed expression. There are so many, so scary. Aud. As those black figures continued to approach, the Marines in charge of intelligence quickly confirmed the patterns of each pirate flag, and then shouted out the name of the main captain and the amount of the reward. The White Knight Pirates, Captain, Knight Commander, Queller, has a bounty of 85 million Baileys. The Fire Ant Pirates, Captain, Ant King, Samuel, has a bounty of 69 million Belly. The Iron Arm Pirates, Captain, Crazy Ape, Conrad, has a bounty of 110 million Baileys. A naval battle revolving around One Piece officially kicked off in front of people from all over the world. Chapter 96 First Order. Rush the Duck. Strong ship and sharp cannon. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Not just the Sengoku side, there is a sailor on every warship loudly reporting the intelligence of these pirate groups to the top officer on the ship. It took them nearly 2 minutes to finish, and there was no pirate captain whose bounty was less than 50 million Belly, and there were even 2 big pirates with over 100 million Belly. This also made the atmosphere of the entire fleet tense. Each of these New World pirates has the characteristics of an expert and a bold person. Each of them is not weak in strength, so they can really do anything. As long as they feel it is necessary or the target is attractive enough, they are willing to take risks. Pirate King Gold, Roger's great treasure One Piece, its temptation is definitely big enough. In fact, the captains of these pirate groups just came to take a look. After all, 10 warships, plus the lineup of naval admirals and naval heroes, have sufficient intimidation power, but when they discovered that there were more and more pirate ships around them, and each one had a good reputation, they suddenly felt a tacit understanding that there was an opportunity. As long as they join forces, it is possible to take advantage of the chaos and steal a cargo ship's huge wealth. As for which lucky person succeeds and which unlucky person sinks to the bottom of the sea, it all depends on their own ability and luck. In this way, the phone bugs started talking between the pirate ships. They discussed the contents of the joint operation unscrupulously, not caring whether they would be monitored by the Navy. Of course, there's nothing you can do about it. After all, white phone bugs that can prevent eavesdropping are extremely rare, and they don't have them at all. At the same time, the Navy is indeed using black phone bugs to eavesdrop on the conversations between these pirate groups. Go down with the order, form a formation, and prepare to fight. After Warring States received the information, he ordered it immediately. Soon, the speed of the 2 large cargo ships slowed down. The 10 surrounding warships were divided into 2 layers, inner and outer, and began to rotate around the center, always firing the strongest side strings. Foreign. This group of pirates must be beaten and disabled here. Only in this way can we frighten the pirates behind. Send the order, don't take any prisoners this time, annihilate them all. The decisive and cold-blooded orders of this current admiral, the only one serving at the Navy headquarters, were transmitted to the ears of countless people in countries and islands around the world without any delay, along with the image phone bugs in the hands of the nearby propaganda department personnel. This also made many people subconsciously clench their fists and look nervously at the terrifying pirate ships that appeared on the screen. Come on, Navy. For most people, the Navy represents justice and is a shield that protects world order, while pirates are evil, synonymous with killing, violence, and plunder. This is also the reason why people everywhere cheered loudly as soon as the news of Whitebeard Newgate's death in the original work came out. As soon as Shilu heard the Warring States orders conveyed by the Navy, he felt better. He stretched out his tongue and licked his lips that were a little dry due to the sea breeze. He smiled and said, "It's really good. The Navy is a place." He found that he liked being a Marine more and more. It was much more refreshing than being in the dark and boring Impel-Down City, but he secretly glanced at Akainu, who had his back turned to him. If only he could change his boss, or be promoted to lieutenant general as soon as possible, then no one would be able to care about him. This damn weather really enhances the atmosphere. It looks like it's going to rain heavily. Lieutenant General Palmer, who was only 50 years old, looked at the dark clouds that were rapidly gathering above his head and complained, "Naval battles, artillery, fighting, dark clouds, wind and rain are indeed a perfect match, but it also adds a lot of risks and accidents. Who knows what scale the storm will reach? The degree of magnetic chaos in the waters of this new world is much greater than that of the paradise in the first half. This can be seen from the fact that the latter only needs one record pointer to navigate, while the former requires 3. Suddenly, there was a big movement among the pirates. I saw nearly 30 pirate ships of different sizes and decorations spread out, and then rotated around the 10 warships, but their direction was exactly opposite to the warships. I see. Sengoku squinted his eyes and understood what these pirates were thinking. Their strategy was actually very simple, which was to use their numerical advantage to surround the entire naval fleet, and then launch simultaneous attacks from different directions, then, the boarding battle. The main reason is that this is fair to all pirate groups. In addition, their artillery is not qualified to engage in an artillery battle with the Navy in terms of quantity, range, and power, even if they have more ships, so we must get close and fight hand to hand. Really, when all the pirate ships kept a similar distance from each other, through the contact with the phone bug, they almost met the Navy fleet at full speed at the same time. It was like a swarm of sharks smelling the smell of blood, rushing toward a group of huge whales with a strong sense of malice and greed. This scene was naturally broadcast live to all over the world. All men, women and children fell silent, staring blankly at the famous pirate ships with their mouths open. One Piece actually attracted so many big pirates. A newspaper reporter with a petite camera phone hanging around his neck muttered subconsciously, "Boom. Boom. Boom. Boom." When the pirate ship sailed into the warship's artillery range, the Navy was not polite at all. Under the order of Admiral Sengoku, it immediately opened fire, one by one. The headquarters-class warships facing the outside and sailing in arcs suddenly revealed their flaming fangs. The hollow blasting shells were as powerful as the Tomahawk missiles in IM's previous life, carrying scorching heat. Enemy ships flew in all directions. It can be said that although the power of naval guns in this world is extremely backward in terms of range and accuracy, the power of explosives is as terrifying as black technology. "Stop it!" Queller, the captain of the White Knight pirates, roared and pointed his conical knight's gun high into the sky. Swish, swish, swish. Following his order, 3 figures wearing White Knight armor and white cloaks turned into afterimages and flew out, cutting the 3 falling black cannonballs into 2 pieces, causing them to fall into the holes on both sides of the ship's armor. High water columns exploded in the sea. The turbulent explosion impact forced the air into waves and swept away, but the pirate knights on the deck remained motionless. However, most of the members did not have cloaks behind them, which should reflect the level gap. Although the cannonballs of warships are powerful, there is no shortage of combatants in this sea area who can chop and blast them with swords and fists. Attacks such as explosions are not very lethal to targets whose physical strength exceeds the limits of the human body. For example, there are people with animal-type fruit abilities, and according to Cypherpole's internal statement, people with a power value of 500. But this doesn't mean that these pirates can completely ignore the salvos of naval guns. As the distance between the 2 sides became closer and closer, the accuracy and density of the naval warship's artillery became increasingly higher. Cannonballs continued to bombard the pirate ship, causing huge explosions and fires, and casualties were naturally inevitable. Although the pirates also began to fire back, they were rushing towards the fleet head-on, so they could not use the side string where the gun cabin was to fire a salvo, and the firepower was naturally greatly reduced. In addition, since the latter is covered with a layer of solid steel armor, it basically turns a blind eye to the small power cannonballs of the former. Unless the shells fall on the deck, a general will step out to deal with it. This is why the Navy can suppress the world, strong ship and sharp cannon. Gathering of experts. Big fire. Suddenly, the temperature skyrocketed. Chapter 97 Another Natural Ability User. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Big fire. When the first pirate ship, the Iron Wall Pirates warship, took the lead in approaching a warship in the violent storm, a massive lava fist more than 10 meters high and several meters thick appeared with billowing black smoke. In the sight of both the enemy and ourselves, it looked like a small building formed by magma crashing over. Trash and smashers, let me send you to hell. Wearing a red suit and a coat of justice, Sakaski stood majestically on top of a triple anti-aircraft turret, looking down at the crazy ape who had transformed into a humanoid gorilla below, gritting his teeth and resisting the lava with all his strength and domineering power. Captain Conrad made a cold declaration. "How can you be so strong?" After the latter persisted for a few seconds, he found that his armed domineering force could not withstand the power and high temperature of the lava. While being pushed backwards, his fur, which had been coated with a layer of black light, began to show signs of being scorched. Boom! The large lava fist like a small building exploded completely, swallowing Captain Conrad in an instant. The pirate ship behind him and the frightened pirates on the deck were also submerged in the hot magma. Behind, Shilu, who had just drawn his knife and was about to board the boat, who was killing everyone, stopped quickly when he saw this scene, and the excitement on his face froze there. He could only darken his face helplessly, feeling angrily in his heart. Complain. That's it again, how can killing be so brutal? There is no beauty at all. Akainu, Akainu. Suddenly, a roar of extreme anger and hatred was heard on the Iron Wall pirate's ship, which was burning with raging fire. The next moment, a black-haired gorilla nearly 3 meters tall, covered in sticky lava, burst out of the fire with a look of madness and ferocity on its face. Die to me. The bounty of hundreds of millions is indeed not unreasonable. The vitality of the animal system is indeed good. Sakaski watched indifferently as the other party sought death, still maintaining his elemental right arm, billowing terrifying black smoke and fiery heat in the wind and rain. At this moment, there are more than 40 warships on both sides of the enemy and ours, constantly firing cannonballs at the other side's deck. The difference is that the pirate ship's cannon can only blast shallow dents on the surface of the warship, while the latter's cannon but it can easily penetrate the ship, causing the shells to explode inside the opponent, causing serious damage. The climate in the sea area of the New World really changes at any time. The storm is fully formed, and waves of big waves crash over without distinguishing between friend and foe, but the pirates and navy who were already red-eyed were not interested in caring about this at all, especially the pirate captains and their officers who were carrying high bounties and boarded the deck of the warship in various ways. Kill. Bang 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 bang, that I saw a bounty of 69 million Baileys. The captain of the Fire Ant Pirates, Samuel, nicknamed the Ant King, had entered the form of an orc, covered with a black ant carapace, and holding 2 full metal weapons. The large-caliber pistol was manufactured and fired wildly, completely ignoring the huge recoil produced by each bullet, clearing a large area on the deck in an instant. He was like a black ant king who was spitting out fire all the time. When a navy captain rushed up to try to stop him, the former used his armed domineering energy to harden the heavy barrel, then he swung it up and hit the opponent's chest hard, spitting it out. The blood flew back, and he continued to pull the trigger to kill each sailor. It's too much. Suddenly, a dazzling golden light pierced Captain Samuel's eyes. At the critical moment when he closed his eyes subconsciously, relying on instinct and domineering power, his body tried to block the 2 guns in front of him for defense. The brown leather boots were already pressed against his cheeks, driven by the shining long legs. At the same time, a speech that sounded extremely lazy, with an inexplicably long and slow tone, reached his ears at this moment. Have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Call out. The next moment, Captain Samuel, who was in the form of a black ant in the animal-type bug fruit, turned into a golden laser and shot it out, first crashing through the railing of the warship, and then crashing through the hull of his own ship and another ship. The pirate ship flew hundreds of meters across the sea before crashing into the rough waves. This wasn't over yet. After Porcelino kicked him, he turned into light spots and instantly passed over the warship's mast, appearing in the air 100 meters above. Then, it turned into a diamond-shaped ball of dazzling light. Because of the thick dark clouds caused by the storm, the entire battlefield seemed extremely dark, but when he came up, he suddenly became the most eye-catching presence in the scene. Almost everyone subconsciously squinted their eyes and raised their heads. Ba Chi Cheong Goyu. Kizaru and Akainu's devil fruits have been awakened and have been trained and developed for more than 10 years. Compared with the generals, their combat power is only at the level of domineering, so the power of the fruit's abilities is not compromised at all. Thousands of densely packed beam bombs dragged long golden flame tails, overwhelmingly covering the entire area behind the fleet. A dozen large and small pirate ships were all within attack range. Boom! 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 When the beam of light fell into the sea, a huge fireball immediately rose up and evaporated a large amount of seawater. One shot of the beam of light that fell on the ship was enough to damage the hull of the ship. Two shots directly turned into wreckage and sank to the bottom of the sea in the flames. All the pirates, and even the navy who saw Porcellino showing off his power for the first time, were more or less shocked, and the tens of thousands of people from all over the world in front of the live broadcast screen had their mouths hanging open. Silly there, especially those people in the four seas can't imagine that there can be such terrifying combat power in this world. This is simply a natural disaster. Who would have thought that Lieutenant General Kizaru, who always talked about how terrible and troublesome he was, would be the first one to use his ultimate move, and the destructive power could be called a humanoid demon-slaying order. This kid must be thinking of finishing things early and calling it a day and going back early. Zhang shook his head and said in a dumbfounded voice, and finally turned into a sigh. But with Sakaski and Porcellino, I don't need to take action with that bastard Garp, which saves me a lot of trouble. Yes, on the Navy side, although the momentum seems to be astonishing, with 5 lieutenant generals and hundreds of generals from the headquarters dispatched one after another, as the general, warring states, and naval hero Garp are still holding down the battle, because they are waiting for someone. Boom, 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 boom. Just when the little sun, transformed from the 8-foot Cheong Magatama, began to shrink its light, thick and ominous purple electric snakes began to emerge from the dark clouds. Garp raised his head and squinted his eyes to examine the situation above his head. The next moment, the sky that had completely turned into thunderclouds suddenly rioted. Strips of purple lightning as thick as an adult's arm covered everyone's face. These lightnings seemed to have their own consciousness. They only stared at the warships of the Navy and the generals who had a strong presence on the battlefield like torches. Beat! In the distance, Eugilio, who killed 2 pirates conveniently, looked at Zilei who was attacking him and said in surprise, "Is there another natural ability user?" Chapter 98. Please subscribe. The Pirate Emperor joins the war. You are listening at NovelFold.audio. The first half of the Grand Line, Winter Island, Drum Kingdom, the weather here is still as gloomy and cold as ever. Goosefeather snowflakes fall from the sky for free, and the cold wind blows through the snowflakes in a whistling way. People wearing thick winter clothes are working outside, especially the construction workers from the world government, regardless of their red cheeks from the cold ground, used their hands wearing thick gloves to push boxes full of materials and tools onto the already widened mushroom cable car. On the other side, Kazan spent a lot of time and energy building the magnificent ice stairs. There are also teams that can't be seen going up and down. There are wooden houses for people to rest on the spacious platforms every kilometer. And pavilion, looking down from above, you can most intuitively see the extremely spectacular flow of people, especially on the Tsigu Peak next to the main peak, where you can clearly see the roughly formed medical school building. The ice stairs between Tsigu Peak and Tsigu Peak have turned them into a beautiful necklace of sparkling crystal light. At this time, Dr. Guriva was accompanying a large group of doctors, enjoying the floor heating that the construction team had installed as a priority, and watching the live broadcast projected by the video phone bug. Wow, someone can actually release such terrifying lava. If this hits someone, I wonder how to treat them. A middle-aged male doctor touched his chin and thought. It must be severe burns all over the body. If the patient does not have strong vitality, he will have to count on a miracle if he wants to survive. Another doctor agreed. These doctors, all of different ages but wearing white coats, have a very interesting perspective on this world-famous naval battle. No matter what happens, there will always be a medical aspect. At this time, the Dr. Guriva, who was also wearing a white coat, stood up and left. She wasn't really interested in these things, but after all, the current medical school was established with the support of the world government, so she came to pay attention. Now seeing that the Navy seems to have the upper hand, she can no longer bear her temper. She is now focused on the research on platinum lead disease. Being able to spare this little time is considered to be a good impression of the world government. Also, Dr. Gyulwa recently heard that a naval admiral will come to see the doctor in a few days. Oh, by the way, he is a former Navy admiral. As the battle in the New World intensifies, the influence of this public live broadcast in the world is gradually expanding. More and more people gather together, or stay at home and turn on the video to watch it on the phone, especially the royal families and nobles of the major participating countries. After witnessing the terrifying combat effectiveness of the naval fleet, their awe towards the world government has also increased a bit. It turns out that the warships of the Navy headquarters are so big, their decks are so solid, their artillery has such a long range, and they are so powerful. There is also the seemingly weakest naval soldier, whose strength, speed and reaction are comparable to those of the generals of the king's army. The generals wearing justice cloaks moved so fast one by one that it was hard for the naked eye to keep up. 10,000 meters under the sea, in the Ryugu castle on Fishman Island, King Neptune, Princess Odoheim, Ministers Wa and other officials were watching the sea battle between the Navy and pirates. I'm very glad now that I agreed to the Navy's establishment of a branch here. Vice Admiral Akainu and Vice Admiral Kizaru are both so powerful. Lieutenant General Akiji, who is also the replacement for the general, is about the same. We fish from now on, the island will no longer have to worry about pirate attacks. King Neptune sighed sincerely. Your Majesty is wise. Ministers Wa bowed and replied, in fact, the officials of the Fishmen tribe and the soldiers of the Sea King army who were responsible for the guards were all a little frightened by the battle in the picture. The Fishmen feel that they are 10 times stronger than humans. This is not just the idea of the Fishmen Street, but the mainstream view of the entire Fishman Island. They admit that there are characters stronger than themselves among humans, but they certainly don't think there are many. But now both sides of the battle in the video are humans, and there is not a single Fishman compatriot at all. Besides those sailors, there is no one who can be found at random. All gave the soldiers of the Navy Army a feeling of invincibility. Your Majesty, I also heard that Lieutenant General Dolag, who is currently in charge of the Shampoo Islands, is also a user with natural hurricane fruit abilities, and he is also the son of Lieutenant General Garp. Oh, King Neptune looked at the other party in surprise. He had heard that the commander of the naval base stationed in the Shampoo Islands was Dorag, but he did not know the specific abilities. In other words, in his impression, Garp's son Dorag was an incompetent person. This is a good thing. The stronger Dorag is, the safer it will be for the citizens who will visit and live in the Shampoo Islands in the future. After saying that, he looked at the projection screen again, only to find that it was all golden light. He couldn't see anything at all, and the king didn't care. I thought to myself, I hope the Navy can win this battle. Holy Land, Marie Joya, in the social square of Pongal Castle, who transformed into the Saint of Korokol, asked people to take down the net bags on the court, and then sat on the lounge chairs with Mihawk, Gion, and Stussy. Watch live high-definition footage projected above the court. Early this morning, he introduced Mihawk to Gion and Stussy, and then played an interesting and wonderful tennis match with Mihawk under his helpless expression. In fact, this kid is not very good at playing, but as soon as he picks up the racket and plays a casual game, his proficiency rises like crazy. In fact, the basic skills of tennis are not difficult for the swordsman. Interestingly, Gion knew Mihawk, or had heard of his reputation outside. The eagle-eye swordsman of the night holds the supreme sharp sword, the black sword. I just didn't expect to meet in this place, and the other person's identity is still a Tianlong. What's even more shocking is that he is a child of the Kalakal Holy Family. Therefore, Gion is now full of curiosity about Mihawk. No, while watching the live broadcast, he secretly glances at the latter who is watching the battle seriously. I really want to fight him, but he is also a Tianlong. What should I do? The woman's mood was extremely complicated at this time. At this moment, a purple electric snake rolling in the dark clouds appeared on the projection screen. Seeing this scene, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing an extremely handsome smile. The main characters have arrived. The first one to appear is Charlotte Lingling. The next moment, streaks of purple lightning filled the entire screen, like pythons with fangs and claws, opening their mouths to bite the warships and the admirals in the battle at an extremely alarming speed. The strange thing is that some generals clearly avoided it by shaving, but those electric snakes turned automatically and continued to pursue them, almost in an instant. A dozen low-level officers and hundreds of marines at all levels were electrocuted. Only the colonels and above who had mastered the domineering force survived. A natural ability user? Mihawk asked in surprise. In fact, after seeing Porosalino's 8-foot Magatama, it is difficult not to think of such a large-scale natural phenomenon attack as a natural ability. No, it's Big MOOM here. Im said softly. Sure enough, under the photography of the capable government personnel of the propaganda department, a skull and crossbones flag with a chocolate-colored top hat, pink curly hair and bright red lipstick appeared in front of countless people. That's the Queen Mother anthem of the Big Moon Pirates. That it was the reporter from a newspaper who relied on his knowledge of the major forces to loudly shout out the information he knew in the square of the Chambord Islands. The Pirate Emperor joins the war. Chapter 99. The General is about to face a humanoid natural disaster. You are listening at NovelFold.audio. Ha 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 ha, the little ones are setting off. The big one is finally here. Yes. About 1 nautical mile away from the battlefield, a warship flying a pirate flag roared loudly, and then the crew began to operate the sails and rudder to speed up. Not only them, there are actually many pirate groups around them who choose to watch the battle on the naval fleet, mainly because of the public live broadcast of the world government, which greatly facilitates them to check the battle situation. These people just feel that the Navy's combat power is a bit too strong, and it is difficult for them to cope with it. After all, Navy Admiral Sengoku and Navy Hero Garp are both there, plus the 2 top-level natural ability users who are backing up the 2 admirals. They are full of intimidation, so these opportunists waited silently. As the saying goes, if the sky falls, the tall man will hold it up. They are just waiting for the tall man to come and withstand Sengoku and Garp. It is best to replace the 2 generals in succession. If you hold on, you will have a chance to grab a cargo ship full of treasures, or grab a warship or something. Now that the Big Moon Pirates have finally arrived, and Charlotte Lingling herself has indeed taken action, they are naturally unwilling to continue to waste their efforts. Elsewhere, on another pirate ship, a cadre looked at his captain in confusion and asked, "Boss, aren't we participating? The Pirate Emperor is here." "Humph, idiot, don't you look at the scale of this naval battle? There are only 2 cargo ships. So what are the chances that one can be snatched away in the melee of 10 warships and dozens of pirate ships?" The captain looked at his stupid little brother with disdain. The latter scratched his head and asked in confusion, "Then why are we here?" "Ha ha ha." The captain took a puff of his cigar and puffed out a smug smile. "I'm waiting for this war to end, waiting for my colleagues who have suffered heavy casualties and are exhausted from the battle." That the surrounding pirates were stunned. They all stared at their captain in stunned silence and said to themselves, "This is too insidious and a bit despicable, but it's such a good idea." Some people are willing to be sharks, some are willing to be eagles that strike back, but some people are willing to be hyenas staring at carrion. It is evident how complex the human heart is and how dangerous it is. Boom, 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 boom. Mama. Charlotte Lingling, who is 44 years old and nearly 9 meters tall, stands alone on the bow of the Queen Mother anthem. He opened his arms high, facing the sea wind, big waves and heavy rain, looking at the purple thunderstorms falling in the distance, and laughed heartily. Joel D. Roger. Think of this lightning and thunder as the curtain call fireworks that I gave to One Piece, Mama. From now on, this sea will return to the era of rocks again. That she laughed louder and louder, until tears came out of her eyes. What a mockery, how ridiculous. The era of One Piece only lasted less than 2 years. It's amazing, world government. As soon as she finished speaking, the laughter stopped, and Charlotte Lingling's eyes flashed with terrible anger. She, Sengoku, and Garp looked at each other from afar, gritting their teeth and said, "You have broken the rules of the game." Snort. Suddenly, a domineering cold snort seemed to spread across the entire battlefield, and then amidst a buzzing sound, a golden light bloomed on a warship. Many people subconsciously thought that Lieutenant General Kizaru had used another big move, but when they looked around, they saw a golden Buddha looking indifferently at the thunderclouds above. Don't be too presumptuous in the face of justice. Buddha's wrath, shock wave. That I saw this golden Buddha Arhat, who seemed to have descended from the long river of mythology to the present world, and slapped a giant palm in the air. In an instant, a ball of pale golden translucent air blasted out and expanded rapidly in the air. Come on, there are golden thunderbolts attached to it, snapped. 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 The shock wave carrying golden light and lightning instantly flew into the thick thunderclouds. Those purple lightning snakes that tried to prevent it from approaching could not shake the former even a little bit no matter how violently they struck. Boom! It was extremely huge, huge enough to make audiences thousands of miles away feel the deafening roar. Both the enemy and ourselves on the entire battlefield even stopped for a short time. The sky is opened. Far away from the battlefield, a pirate ship was approaching at full speed, and the crew members were preparing to join the battle. They all stared blankly at the thick thunderclouds that were blasted away by the golden light. The blue sky appeared before people's eyes again, the strong wind dissipated, the heavy rain stopped, and all the purple thunderstorms were swept away. It is bright. It is said that human power cannot defeat natural disasters, and natural disasters are invincible. However, in this world, there is a small group of people who have the power to fight against and even defeat natural disasters. Some of them are called Navy Admirals, and some are called Pirate Emperors. They are all called the highest combat power or the pinnacle of combat power. This is too exaggerated. Is the power of an admiral so outrageous? Stussy covered her mouth and exclaimed in shock. She had never seen a battle between the strongest combatants. Even she, a CP9 elite, had such an attitude. You can imagine how shocked and horrified people around the world were. Suddenly, she noticed that Xiao Lakir's expression was always as calm as water, without even a trace of change in his eyes. Could it be that this gentleman is also? After thinking about it carefully, this woman even began to suspect that the 5 old stars above might all have the same strength as the Warring States General. After all, this Saint Kalakal is a candidate for the next 5 old stars. Mama, it hurts so much. Oh, that I saw a cloud with purple electric current, very anthropomorphically crying and returning to the Queen Mother's hymn, surrounding Charlotte Lingling and wailing in grievance. Ma'am, you are one of my souls, Zeus, you will never die. Big Moon grinned at the little thundercloud. At this time, her second son Katakuri stood up from the brothers and sisters, holding a trident and asked, Mom, do we want to join the war? No, Just when Charlotte Lingling was about to answer her most outstanding son, she suddenly turned her head and looked at the distant sea at the other end, where something that made most people frightened and despaired appeared. Waves, big waves, a super tsunami rolled up rolling sea water and was visually estimated to be hundreds of meters high. Its range did not seem very large, but it was enough to cover an entire Navy warship. What is this? This battle is too scary, Captain, let's run away. That the pirates who were fighting with the Navy suddenly panicked. An atmosphere of fear spread on the already chaotic battlefield. Even the lower-level Navy in the headquarters were a little frightened. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Cap's heroic laughter echoed throughout the audience. Whitebeard, you're finally here, you really kept me waiting for a long time. After saying that, Warring States saw Garp disappear on the warship with a bang, and rush towards the tsunami at a speed that was unknown many times faster than the sound. This bastard left without permission again. Warring States shook his head helplessly, and then sighed, forget it, that's fine. Since he has taken action, the waves will not be able to pass, so let him block Whitebeard. Immediately, he focused his attention on Big Moom in the distance. There was a difficult woman over there, but for some unknown reason, she had no intention of approaching her. Chapter 100. This chapter is dedicated to Kikyo's lonely boss and all the friends who reward me. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. You really gave me a good sandbag. Garp stepped on the moon steps and stood on the sea, looking at the super tsunami rushing over. he opened his mouth and smiled, revealing 2 rows of neat white teeth. From a height of several hundred meters, from his distance and angle, it felt like he was like a tiny ant standing in front of such a natural disaster, but there was no fear or flinching on his face. Instead, he was full of excitement and eagerness to try. That I saw Garp take a long breath of air, and power began to gather in his body. An extremely fierce and masculine domineering momentum burst out from his whole body. His body moved slightly and he heard the sound of his muscles and bones. His limbs and a big spine were like a bow being drawn to the full. Drink, that with a loud shout, this terrifying man's arms began to exert force, the veins bulged, and the muscles began to knot as if they were about to burst. I saw that the dark luster on both arms condensed onto the right fist at a speed visible to the naked eye. Perhaps the domineering energy on it was concentrated and compressed too much, and dark red lightning flashed out, and the light and shadow around it seemed to be all over. Twisted. Fist bone iron fist. The huge black and red fist tore apart a large area of air in front of him, making an extremely violent and terrifying explosion, and punched the super tsunami rushing in front of him. Boom. I can't describe what kind of noise this is. Thunder. Volcanic eruptions. Or is it just a muffled sound? The ears seemed to have lost their function at this moment, but everyone, the pirates and navy present, and even people from all over the world, on every island, could see it clearly. In an instant, really just an instant, the huge wave in front of Garp's little figure disappeared, and just evaporated out of thin air, but to the naked eye, it seems that there is still some image of the tsunami being slowly torn apart by the fist wind, but it doesn't seem to be there. However, at this time, everyone's attention was no longer on the tsunami, but on the turbulent punch struck by Garp. After this fist wind dispersed the super tsunami, the remaining force still split the sea in front of it into 2, and continued to carry the dark red lightning, overwhelming the whale-like pirate ship in the distance. It's the Whitebeard pirates. That's the Moby Dick. That the newspaper reporter's nerves were already a little numb. Everything he saw today was so shocking. He looked at the majestic man who appeared on the screen, holding a moon sword and standing on the whale head, and murmured to himself, "Is he here too?" In fact, the pirate who is regarded by most people as the strongest since rocks is not the golden lion Shiki, nor the pirate King Roger, nor the big moom Charlotte Lingling, but this is a man who is 6 meters tall, has a pair of white crescent beard and golden curly hair, and possesses the power of the shock fruit, which is said to be the strongest superhuman type, the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, Edward Newgate. Goo la la la, you bastard's fist is still as hard as ever. Edward Newgate showed a hearty smile in the face of the surging punches, and at the same time raised Song Yinxia, one of the 12 skills of the supreme sharp sword in his hand. As the power of the shock fruit in his body was activated, a milky white halo appeared on Song Yinxia's Yenhua blade, which was a phenomenon of extreme vibration. At the same time, Armed Haki and Overlord Haki were also attached, and purple-red lightning began to burst out. Obviously, facing Garp's iron fist, even Whitebeard has to take it seriously. Dad. The next moment, with Marco and the others behind him and the people around the world watching in stunned silence, Song Yinxia slashed out like lightning. The shaking force and rich domineering force above collided with each other in the air. The raging fist wind was less than 20 meters away from the Moby Dick. Suddenly, an extremely wide dark hole appeared on the sea between them. The fist wind and vibrations competed with each other, red-black lightning and purple-red lightning intertwined crazily, and the surging air waves almost turned into physical walls, pushing away the incoming sea water. After a moment, the remaining fist force was directly dispersed by the force of vibration. At the same time, at an altitude of 7,000 meters that no one could see, the white sea was already turning upside down, like boiling water, and countless creatures in it exploded. Like balloons, far away on the red earth continent, of the Holy Land Mariajoya looked at this scene on the projection screen and suddenly felt emotional in his heart. In the past life, some people thought that as long as they could control the sea water or make big waves, they could prosper in this world. They could restrain the person with this ability and kill that person in seconds, but in fact, in the original world line, Luffy and Zoro, 2 years ago, were able to join forces to blast a tunnel over 100 meters long on the super tsunami known as the Water Gods, allowing the sea train with more than 20 carriages passed smoothly without a drop of water. What's the use of such terrifying power, whether it's a waterfall or a wave of water? Isn't it all being blown away into splashes by a single blow, so you can watch a rainbow by the way? Some people say that if there were no Akiji's frozen fruit ability in the war, the 2 tsunamis set off by Whitebeard would be enough to destroy the entire navy including Akainu and Kizaru. Now think about it, how ridiculous, to the experts in this world, things like tsunamis hundreds of meters high are just something used to create an atmosphere and decorate a scene. As for waterfalls, big waves, and water walls, any pirate with a bounty of nearly 10 million is enough to easily destroy them. For example, Buji of the Black Cat pirates in the East China Sea in the future can destroy hundreds of square meters of rock with one kick. Body: if the water submerges more than half of the body of the person with the ability, he will indeed feel powerless, but the prerequisite is that the water can touch the person. If a person's punches and kicks are extremely powerful, can generate surging wind pressure, or are powerful enough to resist, then or it's fast enough to dodge, so what's the use of water? 90% of this world is made up of sea water. Whether you are a pirate or a navy, you basically have to live and fight on the sea all your life, coupled with the various extreme climates of the sea. Few people in the world can match them in terms of experience in dealing with large waves. It can be said that playing with water in front of the masters in this world is just trying to do what you want and bring humiliation to yourself. Goo la 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 la. Whitebeard Edward Newgate looked at Garp, who was flying high in the sky with his feet on the air, and laughed loudly. Garp, I'm here to confirm something. As long as you answer, I won't do it anymore. Intervene. You will believe whatever I answer. Letter. Humph, but I have no obligation to answer a pirate. Garp replied disdainfully, not giving any face to the pirate emperor in front of him. He only saw him raising his neck and laughing wildly. Ha ha ha, no matter what you ask, I have only one way to answer, and that is with fists. Hearing this, the crew members of the Whitebeard pirates showed their anger. They felt that this bastard Garp did not respect their father at all. Really? It turns out it's a fake. Edward Newgate suddenly said something that made Garp's face change drastically. The latter quickly turned his head and looked at Sengoku behind him, indicating with his crazy eyes that he really didn't say anything. This idiot, staring at Big Moem, Warring States, who had recovered from the Big Buddha state, saw this and helplessly covered his head with his palms and sighed, having been deceived, but fortunately, there is a long distance between that side and this side, so there is no need to worry about the voice of Whitebeard being transmitted to the propaganda department's image phone bug. Wurororo, how can such a big scene be without me? At this moment, a mythical blue-scaled dragon descended from the sky. He was laughing maniacally with a strong smell of alcohol and dived towards the 2 large cargo ships guarding the fleet. Big Moom. Whitebeard. I want this one piece, Kaido.